Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, I'm going to be building a rocking chair out of some pine 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch boards that I have left over from a camper build. I built a micro camper, a square top camper. I've made a few videos. If you'd like to watch those, I can link them down below, or you can look through my channel and you can find them. It's called Square Top Build Part 1 through 3. I started actually shooting another video of finishing out a bow that I actually made in my last episode, and it broke. So since it broke, I was trying to come up with an idea to stay active and consistent with releasing videos, but I didn't want to just make a video for the sake of making a video. So what I decided to do was actually use up some scrap wood that I have left over. And the reason why is because my shop or / garage is pretty limited to space. And so I don't like keeping a bunch of scrap wood laying around. I'm going to go ahead and, use up some of this material, and it'll be a fun build, so please join me. So I made a really rough sketch of the rocking chair that I'm going to be building, and I'll show it to you. If I'll zoom it in, there you go. You can see that. So I need to figure out how many of these I need to make for each measurement. I'm going to be turning all these down using only hand tools, my draw knife and my spoke shave and files and stuff. And so I'm not looking for perfection. I actually want it to be kind of rustic looking. And action. So I got this at a thrift store for like $2. I thought it was kind of cool. So anyway, I had to make use of my money. So here's the boards that the material boards that I have to use on this build. And I'm going to shape them the best I can as round, but I'm not looking for perfection. And I'm going to do that by using my draw knife and my trusty spoke shave, and I'll be drilling the holes in the legs using Forstner bits, and they look like this. I'll show you a closer, I'll just show you right here, to those who aren't familiar with what Forstner bits are. And the idea behind them is you have like it gives you a flush bottom, as opposed to like if you were using a butterfly bit, which I will grab right now. Hold on. All right, I found my butterfly bits. So for the people who aren't familiar with what the butterfly bits look like, this is the butterfly bit right here. And if you see, it's lots longer here, and it leaves more of like a divot. And what we want with this chair is we want a flat bottomed hole. So that's the reason why we're using Forstner bits. Now I'm going to start cutting everything to the proper length. So if I counted everything correctly, I'm going to need two 24.5 inch pieces and two 40-inch pieces, and so on and so forth, for the sides and the back, and these main rails, and then the arms, and then the rockers. I'm not sure what I'm going to use, but I'm sure I can find something. Even if I have to buy something, it's not a big deal. So I wanted to also mention that I changed the YouTube channel name. It used to be Cultivating Optimism. And the reason why I went with that is because I wrote a book, A Guide to Cultivating Optimism, and the idea was just to use this channel to help promote the book. But I've always built stuff, and that's kind of where I'm comfortable, even though I love to write. And so I changed it to something that the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, would identify with. And this was suggested to me by people who are other YouTubers who are successful. And so I went to Chat GPT, and because I was struggling with coming up with the original name, and it gave me a bunch of different options, and one of them that I liked was the Optimus Craftsman. But then I was like, it doesn't really incorporate some of the other stuff, because I don't want to limit this channel just to making stuff. I want to show some travel and using the square top camper that I build, because it's just the kind of videos that I like to watch and I like to make. And so I changed it to Wondercraft Mindful Builds and Adventures. And I think that that pretty much incorporates all the different things that this channel is going to be about going forward. But I want to also be original, so after the fact, I did a search, and there are other channels that there is a couple other channels that have Wondercraft as their channel name, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, even though this one has Mindfulness Builds and Adventures afterwards. So, but I went to change the name back to the Optimus Craftsman, and YouTube told me that they wouldn't let me change it for another 13 days. So if you would leave in the comments if you like this name, Wondercraft Mindful Builds and Adventures, or do you like the Optimus Craftsman better, or if you can come up with a name, then I could possibly use it if I like it. But I need to have a name that incorporates all the different stuffs on this channel, so that's why the name has changed. So the reason why I'm cutting these all by hand and using hand tools is just for something different. I normally use a lot of hand tools whenever I build stuff, but I usually use a chop saw if I have a lot of different cuts. But pine, it cuts pretty easy, and I'm just having fun, working with the pine. It's not as tough and as hard to cut through. As far as like durability, yeah, pine dents a little bit more when you're using it for like tables and chairs and stuff. But I have a lot of stuff that's, like chairs and tables that are made of pine, and yeah, they get a little nick or ding on them, but it's not really that big of a deal. I'm probably just going to give this rocking chair away, or I'm going to use it and put it on overhead porch outside for sitting in when I'm this summer. So I'm just having fun with it. That's all I'm doing. So. All right, cool. So I got all of it cut, all the pieces cut down to the length that I want. The next step is to find the center of all these cuts. And the way that I do that is I just take a straight edge and I go from corner to corner and it forms an X, and in the middle of that X is the center point. And how I use that is I'll use that as a reference to when I taper it down, so I know where the corner is, so I'm not getting oblong, you know, or whatever. And I'm thinking that the ends are going to be taken down to 3/4 of an inch, but that could change depending on how the diameter ends up being once I start actually taking the corners off and turn it into more of a dowel type with the draw knife and the spoke shave. So, but for now, I just need to go through on each of the cuts and then find the center point. So that's the next step. So one thing that I like to do once I get all these marked, I have a pretty good idea that I'm going to be using 3/4 inch, turning these down to 3/4 of an inch. So what I'm trying to say is that the end of all of these will be 3/4 of an inch. So with this Forstner bit, and I'm sure there's other ways that you can do it, I just simply take the center, that little point, and put it on the center of the X, and then I just tap it with a hammer, and that way it kind of leaves an indentation, and that way I don't have to go through and make circles. I just have to simply just, you know, pop them and put them on there. So that's what I do. So the idea is to take this point, like I said earlier, here's a closer, and just tap it on there. It's you can kind of see the outline a little bit. It's so last night I was thinking about this rocking chair build and how much is involved with turning each of these down into more of a dowel with using a spoke shave and a draw knife, and it's pretty labor intensive. So I decided to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these square, and I'm coming back 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to have a mortise, which is a dowel shaped part of the wood, take this down, because I'm just going back 3/4 of an inch from each end and then making a mark. And what I'll do is I'll cut in with my saw, you know, however much, probably a 1/2 inch, and then just chip it out with a chisel and shape it up with a file. And it's tedious, but you know, it's kind of also a meditative type thing, and I don't mind doing it. So this is what I'm going for. The ends are doweled 3/4 of an inch back on each end. I'll show you how I do that. So at the beginning of the video I said I was just going to use all hand tools for this job, but I changed my mind and I'm going to use the fan saw to cut to help assist with the cutting in the mortises. So here's how I'm going about it. So I have my center point marked. I'm just taking this and I'm putting a 3/4 one on there, getting it centered. as best I can, which I use the mortising tenon, which helps, and I'm just making a mark. It's kind of like a reference line on both ends. Alright, so I'm just using a small chisel, and just basically, since I have this cut back, I'm just simply knocking it off, just like that. So it's pretty rough right now, and so I'm just going to kind of knock these corners off by hand. I don't want to take off too much. I want it to have a tight fit in the mortise, and so it's going to just, because it's going to be held together with glue, and so I want these tight. And so let's see, let's do a test. All right, so all right, that's gonna work. So I'm making these rocker legs out of a scrap 2x6 that I had, and I based it off of this template. I made another rocking chair, but this one I don't like how I think it needs to be up more in the back. I took a stick, once I traced this out on the 2x6 as the template, and I just kind of adjusted it the way that I wanted a thin stick, and then I made a template. So I made the rockers, and I'm just trying to kind of even them up so they're both are the same dimension, and then I'll take it to the sander, the belt sander, and finish it off. So that's what I'm doing right now. So now I have everything cut. I have all the tenons cut in the boards, and I have the rockers cut. So now what I'm going to do, and this is I'm going to start drilling the tenons, but I need to first find the center on this back rail and this front rail, and find the location of where I want these rails to be and how high I want the seat to be. So that's what I'm doing, just finding the center, making a mark, and drilling into mortises. So what I'm trying to figure out is that this is the front, and this is the back rail. And on the last rocking chair I made, the mistake that I made is I made these square. What I'm saying is that I didn't angle it back, and so I had to cut the bottom of the leg before I put it on the rocking part. So I'm trying to avoid that right now. And another thing too is that this is the front is wider than the back, so it's going to go in like that. So I have to take in consideration when I put my tenons in with the Forstner bit, I have to angle it in. So, and probably manipulate these in. So I'm just saying this on camera because if you do decide to make a rocking chair, these are things that you need to know, or you have to go back and remodify the work that you did. So. Alrighty, so I'm putting this together, and I'm having a hard time getting these rails that go in between to line up. And the reason why is because in order to get a really nice fit, I have to angle this end. I mean, and then it has to be angled down. So what I think that I'm going to do is I'm going to dowel these, the four that run to hold the chair together, and then see how that looks, because it will be easier to install these so you don't have to cut so much. And then if I end up doweling these two, that's fine. But yeah, it's turned out to be a little bit more work involved, but that's okay. And because I have tried to put these together, and going into this I knew that these are difficult to get these to match up. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to try to dowel these four. So on these side supports right here, my first initial plan is to keep them solid, square, and you know, not put in the dowel at the end like I showed you earlier in the video, but trying to get this angle and this angle, it's so super hard to do. So what I decided to do was to round them off and then install them, because you know, you have a little bit more leeway, it's just easier. But I think that personally, I don't think that I would like that look. So what I decided on was to take just a piece and put it up here and mark the miter cut, the angle, and then drill a hole and put a dowel in. And I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. Okay, this is the idea that I came up with. I marked where I want the location, and this piece of wood is almost too short, but I'm still gonna use it. So all right, so, and then I got this angle. You can adjust this and find the angle and use this as a straight edge. And so I'm just going to put it up here, and I got it adjusted, and just transfer the line. Actually, I don't know how that's going to work over there. So we'll try that. Not exactly how I was planning it, but this one will work. All right, so there, right there. All right, so I made my cut and my miter cuts, and this is what it looks like. So now I can transfer this piece and make the other three. But this was a little weird right here. I guess I could have gone underneath. Anyway, you get the point. So, but that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll just drill a hole right in here, make the X and drill a hole, find the angle once I get all these cut, and then I can just dowel these in, and yeah, it's going to be good. Alright, so now I'll trim these ends off a little bit, shorten them up. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to put this together and see if it fits, dry fit it. So, it's the right side. Alright, so I think it needs some more work. So I'd have to admit that it was kind of a struggle getting these miters cut right and the dowels in at the right angle. But I got it the best I can, and but now I see why usually the rails are round, because it's lots easier to be able to manipulate it. You don't have to go for such a tight, strict corner or whatever you want to call it. The next step after this glue dries, I'm going to start putting these rails in place, and so the back tapers back from the front, and so I don't know how well these are going to match up. So I might have to, once I get them set in, I might have to kind of bring the bottoms down a little bit to kind of flow with that, so there's no corners sticking out. But we'll cross that bridge when I get there. This is the way that I'm going to do this. I got this back on like I think it's 3/4 right here, a piece of wood, and 1.5 inches. I already marked the other side, so I want this back to be lower. I want it to sit, the back to lean back in more relaxed fashion. So what I did is I came up here and I measured to 9/16, made a mark, and then I'm going to come back over here on this back one, and it's going to be 1.25 inches. Make a mark, and then to get my bevel, I got this at 4 inches back from the front, and so that's where it's going to stop. And I'm just going to simply line this up the best I can and make a mark right there. I think. Alright, so that's how I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to cut these off and then put a dowel in them. I think that'll work. We'll find out. We'll see if my theory worked, or my hypothesis. So. Well, it's a little wonky right here, but I think it's just because this is kind of off square a little bit. But yeah, it sits back like I wanted it to. And these are even in the back, the ends. So yeah, I think I'll mark them and drill them and put a dowel in there and set it in there and clamp it down. And I'll have to go back and trim these down, which I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so I'm going to try to hold this camera steady, and you can see that lines up pretty good. But what I'm talking about is how it sticks over on the edge, which I'll take care of that. And this one's a little out of whack, but it's because the whole thing's kind of needs to be shifted down a little bit. Not a big deal. And then coming around here, you can see this one's pretty good. And then that back one is pretty good. So yeah, so I think it's gonna work. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick preview while I adjust this of these joints. So it was a real bugger to get these to line up as good as I did, but I got it. It just took a lot of time. Blocking the light. So it looks pretty good. I'm getting ready to glue them in. Sorry that you can't see that. But another thing too that I need to adjust is the ends, which I'll do that. You can see they're a little off, but for the most part, it's looking pretty good. All right, please like and subscribe. So since I've been building this rocking chair as I go without any plans, I've kind of changed my mind on a lot of different things. And one of the things that I've changed my mind on was that originally I was just going to sand this down and put some kind of sealer, urethane or whatever on it. But I decided that I want to paint it. So the only thing I have to do now, other than painting it, sanding it, and painting it, is make the seat and the handrails. And I'm using this scrap materials that I have laying around on this. I'm trying not to buy anything. And so I had a bunch of these, I don't know, 1/2 inch by 2 inch. I think that's what they are. Or 1 by 2s or 3/4. I was going to lay these out like that and put a bunch of them down, but I don't think I have enough. So I decided that I had some 3/4 inch plywood, and I'm going to use that because it's going to be painted, and then whoever sits in it will probably have a cushion in there anyway. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you how I'm going to lay that out. So in order to get my measurements, I'm just going to find the center of this front, which is 23.5, and so 11 3/4 is going to be half of 23.5, and then on the back the overall length is 17 7/8, and I think I came up with 8 7/8 as a center. Yep. Then I just transfer it on there and trace it out, and then I'll come back and cut these, get the measurements for these and cut these out. So that's what we're doing. So how I found this to lay this out is I went to the center, measured over 23.5, found the center 11 3/4. And then with my straight edge, drywall straight edge, I laid it on there, made my mark, and then I went 8 7/8 inches, made a mark, and then I just, with my straight edge, made the diagonal mark, boom, on both sides. And then to cut out for the side rails that come up, I just measured those and transcribed them over here. And so that'll be cut out. And then the same in the front is 1.5 inches back and 1.5 inches over. And now I'm just going to take speed square, since I got it measured out, and just make a mark on these, and then take my my square and line that up right there. It looks good. And then make a mark right there and a mark right there. And so this would be cut, this would be cut, this would be cut, and this would be cut, and it'll be, and if we cut it out right, and I measured everything right, it will fit. So I'm going to cut it out now. After a little bit of adjusting and cutting some stuff down, I think I got it close enough for me. Yeah. I'm just going to put some screws in there and call it good. Like I said, it's going to be painted, so yeah. Alright, I think that's going to work good. It rocks really well. I just need to put some armrest on now. So I'll find some material. Not bad for just using a bunch of scrap materials that were just going to get thrown away. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so I found a board that I can use, a scrap board. It was a scrap piece of pine. It was a 1x6 and I ripped it in half. And it ripped it, and now it's 2 5/8 in width. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I've made a mark in the center, and I'm going to match it up with the mark here and get it centered here. And I want it to be, you know, an 1.5 inches, that width, and then I want it to kind of taper out and come out about right here, maybe 1 inch or something. But I need to cut this notch or this angle and then cut it down and shape it with center. So make 2 of them just like that. So that's what I'm doing, and that's how I'm doing it. So right now I'm just filling in some of the larger gaps that, you know, I don't like to look at before painting it. I'm getting ready to go to the store and figure out what color I want to paint it, and yeah. The cool thing about the silicone or putting caulking in here is if you do a pretty good job, you can really hide a lot of stuff, and that's the cool thing about it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Alrighty, just got back from the store, and here is the first coat of primer that is going on. Nice. So now that I have a coat of primer on, I'm gonna let that dry, and then I can start painting it. I'm only gonna put 1 coat of primer on, I think. So In the meantime, I need you guys to sit and watch this primer dry. Let me know when it's done. Just joking. All right, the primer is dry, so now I'm going to put the actual paint on, and this is going to be the color that it will be. So I really appreciate you guys watching, and I hope that you found this video useful and that you consider subscribing so I can continue to make these videos. And so yeah, here we go. All right, that's it. That's the color. Pretty cool. Cool. I like it. I just don't like painting.